Hey everybody, how's it going this evening? Coming at you from our new studio, well, virtual studio anyway. The nice picture of the Earth. We're here on episode 22 of the Fuzed Relativity podcast. The Deuces are flying tonight. Deuces are wild. Speaking of wild, how's it going, Kirk?
It's going good. It's good to be on this space station of love, is which I'm going to call it from now on. But
Don't do
uh,
that.
don't. All right, fine. You guys are a little not in touch with your feelings. But speaking of love, I found out that MTV is celebrating about 40 years of being in TV. So I chose the name Butthead because I figured that was right in your guys' wheelhouse. You guys seem like right for Beavis and Butthead fans.
I was more of a Beavis fan, to be honest.
Not a fan of the Butthead. Too much competition. Like that guy has a funk and a smell, so it was competing against your funk and smell.
Let's go with yes.
No, John, Beavis and Butthead.
It was, I mean, obviously we saw episodes here and there, but never really watched much.
What's kind of funny because MTV, all what I really remember from MTV was just like the countdown shows that we'd
Pop
come
up.
on in the app. Yeah, pop up video.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite MTV show.
And I don't know how much MTV you guys have seen in the recent, couple years, but there's no music anymore. I don't think you should call it music television.
Well,
yeah, that died out a long time ago.
Yeah, but that happened to all the channels. History Channel. I'm trying to think of the name of the other one, and I can't. They've all become. I was going to say Discovery, but Discovery was kind of Discovery. I think even the Weather Channel went that way too.
The Weather Channel went for like topless sexy ratings. That seems odd.
No,
that seems like a stretch.
They do kind of like reality news, like they want you to watch their shock video television just as much as everybody else does.
So not just Storm Chasers makes sense, but other than that, trying to make that sexy seems like, and honestly, when the Weather Channel starts making reruns, that's when I tap out. I know what the weather was on the 17th. I don't need to see it again.
But yeah, it's kind of amazing. Like MTV when it first came out was so big, everybody watched MTV, and then now who really cares?
Well, I mean, it was part of the cable, kind of the beginning of cable.
Pretty much.
Because
I was a partial fan when Weird Al would take it over, turn into Al TV. That was great, and then the game show Remote Control with Colin Quinn and like Adam Sandler would pop in. Those were good times.
See, and I don't remember any of that. Granted, we didn't have cable until the mid '90s.
Yeah, and even then we weren't really like quote unquote allowed to watch MTV, so.
Well, I think
people weren't allowed to watch The Simpsons because they thought Bart was a bad influence on their kids.
Yeah.
So I mean,
hand.
I remember those days. Yeah, like he said damn or whatever, or he said cowabunga. Now there's school shooting, so Bart Simpson doesn't seem as bad.
Well,
compared to what's going on.
You know what's funny? We were even not allowed to watch Power Rangers.
What was wrong with Power Rangers?
It was mostly because we kept beating the crap out of each other.
Well,
you guys are gonna do that anyway.
Well,
yes, but yeah, we got kicked out of a lot of shows. Simpsons was one.
God, yeah. No Power Rangers. Yeah, it was just cartoons.
Definitely not South Park.
It's not true because Dad watched South Park all the time.
Well, I don't remember watching it until I was in high school, and We were
Oh.
real big into Family Guy around then too.
Both shows that are still going on to this day. Somehow.
Somehow.
I know.
Yeah, animation, The Simpsons, South Park, Family Guy, still going, and it's just they
97.
something about
Okay.
the drawings. They don't have to deal with the actors so much. The actor, it does. Something like The Simpsons, like they've stayed the same age forever. It would be creepy if they kept it up with the real age, and it's like Bart and Lisa would be in like their 30s. That would just be ugh. No one wants to see that.
I think. Well, I mean, personally, I think that would be a more interesting take on. Well, especially an animated sitcom.
It would be different just to see them all like progress the same as humans would, but
that's your cartoon character. Have you ever seen a cartoon character age? Just like throwing that out there, because like Bugs Bunny or all the Looney Tunes or Rocky and Bullwinkle and The Simpsons, like I think that was part of the thing. They would kind of stay the same.
Well,
the nice part about the animated shows is it's a good way to disconnect completely from reality because it's a cartoon. So you start making them realistic, and then I think it might take away some of the grandeur of being able to watch an adult cartoon.
Because like I remember when the Batman came out with an animated thing, and it was just so real and so dark and so intense, where I'm like, this isn't a fun cartoon, you know what I mean? With the bubbly, goofy characters, like this is too intense for a cartoon. I specifically remember that when I saw that, because I don't know, a cartoon is supposed to be more lighthearted and silly, I think.
Well, but there was definitely a shift in trend because, I mean, if you think about it, the 50s, well, probably not so much the 50s, but, going on, cartoons were mostly just for kids. And then as the kids grow up, start trying to keep the targeted audience, and you end up creating more not adult themed, but you try and keep the teenagers and everything involved. Now we have cartoons that are almost directly aimed at adults.
And honestly, John, like there's cartoons that we turn on for Delilah that I get sucked into. Like I don't know.
Oh no, absolutely.
I learned something and it changed my life. I found out that brushing your teeth is good.
Well, no, I completely understand what Chris is saying, because like most cartoons are still kind of not aimed at adults, but they put stuff in for adults so that life isn't miserable while you're trying to watch it.
I call them like Toy Story jokes, where like in Toy Story, like where it would go. It's like an adult joke that would go over a kid's head, but it gives something for the adults to enjoy and not lose their minds with, just stupid kid humor. It's like a little joke to keep them.
Right? My favorite is Pororo, which is like a Korean kids cartoon show. It's about a penguin and his cast of characters, but it cracks me up because like one of the episodes is all about the penguin's like friend dinosaur eats too many fish and gets diarrhea.
See, I'm trying to think of shows that my kids got me into. I mean, they watched a lot.
I know, like Peppa Pig got a lot of adults.
Barbie's Dream House. I only say that because it had a lot of adult humor in it, but it was one of those shows. It's like I never was interested in watching it. I just would hear it when my kids were watching it, but it was just like it was odd.
We're not judging you if you like Barbie's Dream House, John.
Oh, I was gonna say I've got 2 girls, so my options were My Little Pony, Barbie's Dream House. I'm trying to think, they watched a lot of movies for a long time, which I was fine with, because like you said,
I'm just glad your daughters started to like the same shows that you liked, because that makes it less awkward for you. Because when you were so into Barbie's Dream House and your daughters weren't, it was a little awkward. a little uncomfortable.
That's another topic too, because I've tried to get them to watch stuff that I like growing up, like what's Powerpuff Girls would be a good example, because we always used to watch.
They don't like Powerpuff Girls?
No, they have never watched it, and like all the shows that were pretty popular back when we were kids, they don't want to watch. Just nothing. For some reason, they stuck to the newer stuff, and then YouTube.
Right. Don't worry. Just like, whatever, old man. That's their attitude, I imagine.
They'll become charmingly retro soon enough, and then they'll make their way back in. And last one I'm gonna throw out on this one because I just thought about it was. Do you remember Johnny Bravo?
Yes.
Dude, that show rocked.
See, yeah, and I was trying to say I can't think of the name of the other one. Oh, Ed, Edd and Eddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are all
good old 90s cartoons, man.
Yeah. I've tried to get them to watch that stuff, but nope.
Well, switching gears, John, I wanted to bring up, I told you about it briefly, but I was a little amazed the other night. I was walking out to my front yard just to stand outside for a few minutes, and I happened to see a Starlink satellite train. That was kind of cool.
Which is surprising, because I don't think they've launched one in a while. But I do think I know why. They had said some of the changes they made makes it take longer to get to their desired orbit.
Because I was standing, looking up, and I saw, what was clearly something very high but moving, and so I'm standing there looking at it, and I said, "Oh, there's a satellite," and then it was like equally spaced, another satellite, another satellite, another satellite, and it went on. There's probably 25 of them. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of told you I don't know if I actually, but yeah, you can track the Starlinks to see when one is going to pass over you.
So, and these are like satellites? Is that what this is?
Yeah, it's the SpaceX's
they're trying to make satellite
global internet. Yeah, satellite. That's what I was looking for. I was like, global? I mean, it will be global, but
speaking of space, what jackass billionaire launched himself into space this week? Because that seems to be the trend.
Yeah, we're kind of out for a little while, Kirk.
There's no more jackass billionaires? Okay,
no.
That's all right. Next week.
But yeah, so I'm hoping that I can spy one of those things again, because I'll try and take a video of it. It was pretty impressive just to see that many satellites equidistant running across the sky.
Yeah,
you're sure it just wasn't headlights. You were just wandering in the street.
No, they were pretty high up there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just went to it's called findstarlink.com. But the thing they said is that it's not giving me a good, it's not cooperating. That because of the light reduction that they've taken, they're harder to see. Because that was one of the.
So they don't have their brights on?
Yeah, no. So the first few that were launched were very visible when they were going up to their desired orbits. And astronomers were complaining because, you're trying to look at stars and all of a sudden you just have a streak of lights go across your field of view. And it generally was seen as there was a lot of pushback because they didn't want 4,000 satellites up there zipping around because you wouldn't be able to take or do you wouldn't be able to look at the stars very well with all that light pollution pretty much in space or in low Earth orbit.
Would there be some sort of threat of the satellites accidentally just smashing into one another? I mean, at a certain point, if you have so many up there, isn't that just congestion is a problem?
So, and I've thought about this question because we've talked about it before, but those Starlink satellites aren't very big. I mean, this is a rough size, but it's like a smart car, essentially.
Okay, so you're saying there's space in space, essentially.
Yes, and even if they put up 4,000, which was on the higher end of what they wanted to send up, you're still, I mean, you can fit 4,000 cars in a parking garage, or some of the larger parking garages. In the scheme of space, it's not that much. But yes, there are a lot of people that are worried that it would cause, I think it's called the Kessler syndrome. Trying to remember off the top.
The same thing as space junk, because I've heard that theory thrown about, like where satellites, once they stop working, or they just remain floating, and then when new satellites are launched, they have to worry about them hitting and then exploding already existing satellites.
See,
like that's.
And yes, that is a concern, and it's only a concern because you have two big objects that you can track, and they hit each other. Now you have a lot of very small objects to track. But with
almost shrapnel, it becomes shrapnel-like.
Yeah. The thing is, most satellites in orbit are still close enough that even if they lost power completely, they will still eventually burn up in the atmosphere.
When I heard most satellites are still broadcasting Spice Girl songs. Is that true?
90s callback, Kirk.
God damn.
Because we should shut the science down. If that's what the scientists are working on, they should really focus on something more important. I mean, everybody, who doesn't like the Spice Girls? But seriously, guys, you have glasses. You should be more serious than that.
Dude,
am I way off base?
Not even the Spice Girls like the Spice Girls. Come on.
You know what?
Even they're over the Spice Girls?
That triggered such a random memory.
Was it about Chris not wearing Old Spice deodorant ever? No. Or any kind of deodorant?
No, it was about me asking Chris what radio station Spice Girls might play on.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, this was, yeah. I mean, you probably would have been in middle school at the time. But you know how you have those, like, kind of embarrassing memories that you're like, eh.
Well,
because at the time, we pretty much only listened to country.
Yeah.
And I can't remember.
You left your country roots to explore the Spice Girls?
That's about, yeah.
Okay.
Sounds about right.
I think the moral of this story is you're supposed to bury those memories deep down and not bring back Spice Girls.
Yeah.
It's not like you guys have a Spice Girls Forever tattoo, do you?
No.
Do you? You don't have one. Okay, good.
I had something I was going to bring up because I thought about that after. But now I don't know what it was because Spice Girls just wrecked the whole conversation.
Did you want to talk about your favorite Spice Girl?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, we can move on.
We went from Starlink to Spice Girls. Deuces are wild tonight, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Well, since we've all recovered from our 21st episode, John, FYI, I did forget to tell you this. I got some feedback from my buddy who listens to our show, and he said he texted me to tell me that our 21st stories were really depressing.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I wanted to talk about tonight, and I sent you guys, we kind of talked about it, a coyote blocker, which is a new defense system that is being created. And I just happened to catch the story, but it's essentially a non-kinetic defense weapon to fight drones. And
Okay,
it was
so it's not a new sunglasses. I thought they were like blue blockers, but they were basically a dead coyote you just slap across your face, cut down on UV. That's not what it. That's wrong. Okay, go on. Go teach me. Explain what it is then.
yes, that is nice imagination, Kirk. But no, we're talking about a high-tech military piece of equipment. So the story tells me now. Granted, it's kind of high-tech military stuff, so there's not a whole lot of information on it. But essentially, they said that they sent this swarm of drones, which was 10 drones, all different sizes and capabilities, and this one, we'll call it a. I guess, would you call it a UAV?
No. Well, I mean, technically.
Okay, so I'm going to call it a UAV just for my purposes. But this one UAV took down all 10 drones, and it doesn't use kinetic warfare, meaning bullets or missiles. It uses some sort of electronic battle munition. So EMPs is what I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's from what we kind of gleamed. It was either some sort of EMP device that it's shielded against, or it's got a direction. Or they've made a way to directionally do EMP.
Are these drones? Are they? I don't know much about it. Are they like battery powered? Like I'm trying to picture like these flying drones are like they shitting battery acid on people's car windshields, or is it like oil? Like what are they?
Well,
is it just battery powered, like electronics, essentially?
Well, it's basically just a really big drone. I mean, if you think about it in the grand scheme, but yes, it would be battery. It's an electric vehicle, which is why John keeps saying it has to be shielded. So if it's using EMP and it's not shielded, it shoots its EMP and then it knocks itself out as well.
So drones are going green. They're battery powered. They're not.
Well,
there's no diesel powered.
In theory, actually, gasoline powered would be better against something like that.
Yes. Kirk, are you familiar with EMPs?
I am not.
Okay, so EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse. And essentially, that electromagnetic pulse has the ability to knock out electronic equipment.
Sort of like short circuit them.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, one of the things that they talk about, like solar flares, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the things that is emitted from a solar flare.
Yeah. Any sort of electromagnetic.
And every time there's a really big solar flare, they're worried about EMPs hitting Earth and knocking out our electronic equipment.
And like screwing up the Wi-Fi or screwing up people.
Oh, sending us back to Stone Age is the fear.
Because it doesn't just knock it out; it fries it. Like it's no good after that.
Oh, so it's not just like it's offline for 20 minutes. Like it fries it.
If it's on, it's out. Yeah.
Huh.
But so far we've, even in the satellites in space haven't been protected or hit, and I think almost everything has EM shielding in it nowadays anyway.
All right, would it fry it, or would it just fry it, or could it also curly fry it? Because those are delicious.
Yeah,
maybe like a nice fried egg.
Mm.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not surprised. I work in medical field, and I've seen way back in the day, the old CT machine we used to use. We had a TV that was used to monitor patients while we were doing the scans, and when the machine was running, it would start not shorting out, but the image from the camera would go completely static, which kind of defeats the purpose.
Sure. And the whole reason I kind of brought that up, John, was because of, a few episodes back we talked about the future of warfare, and we were hinting at some of these things, and then boom, there it is. Now we've got the future of warfare being, okay,
No.
so if we have drones coming at us in swarms, how are we going to defend ourselves against that?
It's a part, yes, but it's just a countermeasure. I mean, you could say the same thing about missiles or mortars or anything like that. It's just that, we needed an effective countermeasure for a large majority of potentially hostile drones.
Right. And I think the worst part about drone attacks is they just keep going on and on and on. All right.
But I mean, it raises a good point, because if drones are rendered ineffective, what's the next step after that?
Well,
does it circle back around to ground troops?
Telemarketers.
Those damn robocalls.
Oh, those are the worst. Eventually, you're gonna somebody has it. It has to work because they keep doing it. So somebody has to actually go, yeah, sure, I'll buy you whatever you're selling, phone guy who's just trying to screw me over. That's the worst part about it to me, is it actually has to work because they keep doing it.
Well, yeah. There's actually a very big rabbit hole that, well, I say rabbit hole, that's not the right word for it. A type of video has really risen, and it's messing with these people that call in, or the scammers that call.
Well, I've heard the best strategy I heard is somebody goes, when I get a telemarketer, I just give the phone over to my toddler. If you have like a 2 or 3-year-old, and then because they can't hang up, so then they just keep trying to sell your 2 or 3-year-old who doesn't understand the concept. So it keeps them from aggravating other people for 40 minutes while your toddler screws with them.
Well, unfortunately, just like the advanced measures that these drone fighting UAVs are employing, the robocallers also have very advanced tactics. And they're apparently, I read a story about it, and supposedly these guys are really good. Like they work hard to be good at screwing people over.
It's amazing how hard people work to not work hard.
Correct. So yeah, that's what I've been thinking about the whole, future of war thing since we started talking about it. And this one tripped my brain a little bit, because I said, man, we are we going to start withdrawing troops and just sending these crazy drones across the sea?
Between cyber attacks and drones, I could kind of see that happening. And with people less and less people signing up to join the military, it seems like, yeah, let's just let the computers and the robots handle it.
Well, but I mean, military's been heading that way forever. Ever since they've been trying to use unmanned vehicles. The problem is they're almost all aerial, so they still have to have the ground troops.
Like, how long do you think it's going to be until the world becomes Titanfall?
17 days.
God,
I mean, it's not far off. I mean, what was it, 2-3 years ago they had I want to say the dude in America. There was a guy in America and a guy in Japan that wanted to battle their robots together, and they were essentially like, obviously not as big or mobile like Titanfall mechs, but similar concepts.
So
Wait, this isn't the movie with Matthew Broderick that you're thinking of, is it? It's not that one.
No.
Okay. Sorry, Chris, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say it. When you said that, it made me think of my my next idea for making money on YouTube is to fight robots.
I've had that idea for so long.
No, but
BattleBot. You personally are going to fight robots? Just
yeah,
Chris
me
against the robots?
I'm gonna jump in the ring with a robot and see who wins.
What could go wrong? You could get automated to death.
See, well, and that kind of ties into an idea I had because, we both watched BattleBots, again, back to the 90s. Well, it was more late 2000s, or early 2000s. But we watched BattleBots and all of that. And now we have access to 3D printers and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think back in like 2000, it was probably 2000, I actually tried to build a BattleBot.
Oh,
how far did you get?
Well, I had the whole frame, like yeah, like I had gotten into, basically I had to stop at the electronic part because I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
The fact that you made it out of bubble wrap, I thought was a bad call. That doesn't seem a tough metal object.
You work with what you got, Kirk.
All right.
No, but that's...
seriously, but what about a bubble wrap star? Come on, seriously, that's the new thing. I'm a guy who's going to be so safe and compact, and your delivery will make it there, but all right, battle rap star. Okay, go ahead, John.
We don't need any more pop music, Kirk.
Okay, duly noted.
But I mean, I've thought about this of having, and it's not a unique idea. People have done it, but having a completely 3D printed robot to fight it, 3D each other. Because
So here's this might be a topic for another episode, but since you said it, I'm having some issues lately because I don't feel, and granted, I'm using a standard 3D printer that I could buy offline. But man, the quality, not the quality I shouldn't say, but the sturdiness of things that I've been printing just does not hold up to what I want it to do.
So you need like a higher level kind of, or you need to up it, like it started giving you stuff that you get out of like the 99-cent store kind of quality.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that I've printed work in theory, and then I put them under stress and they just fail.
Well, it's just it's one of the limiting factors of 3D printing because you're putting layer on top of layer. Whereas when you have excuse me. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Instead of the traditional like injection molded part or something like that where it's a solid cohesive unit of plastic, a 3D printed one of the same size is always going to be more fragile because, again, it's layer on top of layer. That's how my 4K monitor ended up breaking because my daughter was with...
Well, here's a question, like as somebody who doesn't, somebody new to 3D printing, I guess, what are the telltale signs of the quality of the product that you're printing is subpar? Are we talking like they just sort of they melt under heat, or they crack, or they just kind of dissolve? Like, I guess, what's the issue?
Well, it's you have inherent weaknesses along the layers. So if you're trying to put, let's say you just printed a stick and you went to go bend it in half, it's going to snap at one of those layers because there's not as much, it's not a perfect cohesion between each layer. There are
But
ways.
a stick would snap. So,
But
I'm
just saying, if you had a plastic stick and a real stick, you would think that the real stick would break way before the plastic one. Correct?
No, I wouldn't think that.
I see where you're going, John, and yes, I would think the regular stick would break first.
Like think of a plastic tube and you tried to snap a plastic tube in half. It's going to be harder. If you did the same thing and 3D printed it, it's going to snap right where those layer lines are. That's just inherent of the.
I haven't had that with every print that I've been doing, but it just seems like some of the prints that I've done lately, especially like I printed a new handle for the pop-up camper, and structurally it seemed fine until I used it a couple times and it broke.
Is this just like sort of you pay for the quality you get? Like last time Chris and I played as mandolin, and then I bought a mandolin that's like $50. I'm not expecting the sound quality of that mandolin to be amazing. So if you have a decent 3D printer, is it? I guess are you expecting too much for the quality? If you a bare minimum 3D printer to then print quality items that are solid forever.
It just depends.
There's a lot of factors, Kirk. I mean, just the print itself, what it is, how much infill you use, the size of the outer and inner walls. I mean, granted, there's a lot you can do, and I'm sure if I tweaked some of the prints and made them more sturdy, they would last longer. But I don't know. It just got me a little discouraged because, I'm looking at this stuff kind of going, shouldn't it just work?
Well, I'm assuming for a door handle, you're putting it under a lot of force. I'm guessing you printed in PETG?
I did, and the amount of force on this door is minimal at best.
You're still putting force on it, though. I'm guessing it broke where if I had to guess, you just slot it on the existing metal square and turn it.
No, it didn't even turn. It was just a straight handle.
Oh, so just pulling and
pushing. Yeah.
Where did it fail?
Where the handle part connected to the base of the to the part you attach to the door.
Do you screw it in?
Yes.
Huh.
So
we're using too much force as a Star Wars nerd.
I'm not a Jedi, Kirk, so no.
No, okay, good. All right, that's eliminated.
Yes. But it could have been just I didn't design it because I designed it myself. So there's a chance I did not design it well enough to handle that. And, that's 100% possibility. So,
yeah.
It just it was something on my mind only because we've been, talking about, I made some caps for the boat. Well, those aren't functional, but they're not put under any stress. So then I make something that has a little bit of stress put on it and it breaks. And then I go, well, this is worthless. What am I doing?
Well, and can I say anything that has to put up with you is under stress? Can I say that right now? So,
but
John, you want to back me up?
You're not, yeah.
But everybody already knows, Kirk. You didn't have to say it.
All right. Well, I was just throwing out that theory. Like maybe it's not the 3D printed stuff. Maybe it's just you, and it just can't take it anymore. But
everyone who listens to this podcast is stressed out, and they're just like, man, every time I listen to this show, I'm just stressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would think that it needs either more infill or more perimeter, like top,
Yeah.
bottom.
I figured if I increased the outside, like the thickness of the walls, I'd probably have a better result. But it's just one of those things that was at the top of my head because it just happened, and it bummed me out. That's all.
I mean, the top of your head was a hat.
Always, yes.
I mean, the only other thing I could think of was the bottom layers, increasing the bottom layers up a couple millimeters. Because typically it only prints in like, I want to say it's 1 or 2 millimeters for a solid bottom layer. I don't even think it's that. I think it's just 1. And that could be part of where the problem was. It doesn't have enough of that bottom structure for the infill.
So you're saying it's not a power bottom?
Well done, Kirk.
Yes.
Well, I've been talking all night, John. Did you have anything this week you wanted to talk about?
I hate 3D printers.
Oh.
Well, so let me explain. I've got 3. I've got 2 presses and I've got an Ender 3. And right now, I don't think any of them are currently operational. No, I take that back. My oldest press is.
What's wrong with the new presser?
The hot end clogged. And I can't find my... I just have to get, off my ass and go and get a new wrench because I can't find the wrench to undo the nozzle.
Oh.
And that one really, it bugged me because I was about halfway done with a 3D printed project that me and my wife are working on.
Yeah, that's a bummer. You don't like to see clogs.
And yeah.
Well, and if you're printing something and it clogs, essentially, do you have to just? I imagine you just have to, whatever you're making, you have to throw out because it sort of was interrupted halfway through.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened. It got the bottom or the base done, and then when it was building up the walls around the side, because I've got this designed to where not a picture frame, a 4x4 canvas sits in the middle of it. When it got to building up the walls around where the canvas would sit, it clogged. So when I got home and took it off the printer, it was just flat.
Huh.
Which obviously absolutely no use. Can't do anything there, so yeah, had to toss it out.
And the biggest
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the biggest bummer, Kirk, is that you put a print on and then you go, I'm gonna go do whatever. And then you come back 2 hours later and the thing is, printing air. It's just clogged, so it's not printing anything. And you're just like, man, all that time wasted.
It almost seems like when I know friends who tried to brew their own beer, where it's such a time commitment, but you don't realize until halfway through that the batch is spoiled, but you have to go through it. And then also with the 3D printer, I was wondering, is there a way to sort of recycle a botched, if you try to make something and it botched because something clogged like that, is there a way to okay, I can remelt it and put it back in, or is that just done?
There is, but it's not cheap.
It's almost not worth doing, basically.
Not on a hobby level.
Just throw it away, basically.
Yeah, the one that failed was probably about 50 cents worth of plastic-ish, maybe $1. Right.
Yeah, that's the downside, Kirk, is you can recycle the stuff, but it's just not cost efficient because of the filament itself is so cheap when it's made on a large scale that it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I mean,
see, look at that. We're learning something new about 3D. It's been a while since I've learned something new about 3D printing, so this is enjoyable.
Yeah, they have machines that can shred down failed prints or, or end of spools and then heat it up and or extrude a new filament. But that's kind of a just kind of a
Well,
if you have the money, it's fun, but otherwise,
Well,
And when
so
I
it's
was
more of a higher level kind of if you've been doing
yeah.
it, not a beginner thing.
when I was doing my wiffle ball thing real heavy, um, I stumbled across a thing that you can actually wiffle balls are made out of polyethylene, which is essentially what PETG is, but it's not quite the same. There's another something in there, and they said that you could actually make a filament that is only polyethylene by melting down and cooling recycled milk jugs, because that's what milk jugs are made out of.
It's not polyethylene though. It's I can't think of the name.
Well, they talked about how you could recycle up the milk jugs and use that to create a wiffle ball with a injection mold.
Oh, it is polyethylene. Sorry, it's high density polyethylene.
Yes, which PETG is not high density poly. It's got something.
Yeah.
It's polyethylene, but there's it's a different polymer or whatever. And but yeah, so theoretically, like you could even recycle milk jugs and spin them into 3D printing filament, but it's going to cost you more money to do that, Kirk, than it is just to buy the filament from Amazon or whatever.
Okay, so it hasn't become cost efficient yet.
No, and I don't foresee it ever. Like I could see it as in a community center investing it, recycling filament.
Well, just like for an average person, just like a basic generic, like just if I go, hey, I want to get some filament, how much does a spool of filament run an average person?
$20.
Okay, so yeah, at a certain point, it's not worth the headache to try to recycle something that's only $20. So it's like the junker car where it's like, okay, we can just throw this away.
So a spool is, a $20 spool is generally 1 kilogram, Kirk. So it's like 2.54 pounds or whatever. And depending on what you're printing, you might only use 70 grams or 50 grams of filament to print your project. So out of a spool, I mean, you can print 20 or 30 projects depending on their size and intricacy. But yeah, you're talking like 50 cents a print, maybe $1, maybe $2 if it's something really big and fancy. So, it's not a very expensive proposition to buy filament.
Okay, it would almost be like construction paper, and you rip construction paper, and then you use duct tape to stip it back together because you're trying to. It almost like it's so cheap you don't have to replace that. Try it again.
Just get another piece.
Right.
Environmentally, yes, it would be nice to recycle especially like support structure and stuff like that. Because I was saving up the failed prints and the supports and all that stuff to see if I could do something with it, and it probably would have been at least a new 2 or kilogram roll, but I think the equipment alone is, I want to say, upwards of like 500.
Not to mention, you don't necessarily want to be melting big pools of this filament. I mean, I'm talking about from a toxic standpoint. I know it's not necessarily toxic, but you get enough of it into a vat and you start melting it down, there's a good chance you're going to get some fumes.
Right, and even though your family has gas masks anyway, Chris, it's it's you don't need to do that. You don't need to throw that much toxic fumes when you're already around.
Well, yeah, there's no need to add any more.
And
it's just piling on at a certain point.
Yeah, there's Well, obviously this isn't. So I was looking at the. Oh yeah, a full recycling setup, 15,000.
Okay, so
Huh.
not for the average beginner 3D printer.
No. Now, if you could buy that setup and then take everyone in the country's unused filament and then melt it down, recycle it, and respin it,
Which
I
is,
could see that, that would be a worthwhile cause, but that's the only way you're going to make it worthwhile.
and that is a service they offer, is recycling failed prints, or recycling scraps.
So, I mean, that's one of those things you just assume, throw it in the trash. That's what I do.
Yeah, I tried to come up with a creative way to redo mine, but like Chris said, when you start heating that stuff up to the point where it becomes molten and liquid to move around, it starts giving off a ton of fumes.
Yeah, it just seems like you're a lot. It just you're just rolling the dice. Where if you're heating up chemicals, they're gonna pop or get on you, or it seems like you're just getting an unhealthy territory.
Just a little bit.
So it's just better not to do that just for that sake. But John, I just, as we're talking, I thought of another thing to tell you. I was looking at the wonderful model of the Ingenuity that's sitting on my desk, and the Ingenuity, which we haven't talked about in a few weeks, it made its 10th flight, did everything as it was supposed to. I'm a little bummed because I've lost a little bit of interest in the darn thing, because every week it's like, oh, yeah, it flew. It did what it was supposed to.
Which we talked about towards the beginning of this, before it started flying, was why people lose interest in these rovers and everything so fast. And that's exactly it. It becomes mundane.
They could use a little drama, heighten the tension, make us think that it almost exploded to get our attention back.
Because like the first couple weeks, especially the first flight before they proved they could do it, I was like on pins and needles because I'm thinking, I want to see if this thing's going to actually do what it was supposed to do. And then after about the 5th or 6th flight, I'm like, all right, so they know it's working. And then they get to the 9th and 10th flight, and I'm just like, yep, I already knew it did what it was supposed to do. Who cares about this thing anymore?
I mean, it will eventually, when because it's got a limited lifespan. That thing's not going to last too much longer. And I say that, I mean, it could be flying for another year. I doubt it, but that is a possibility.
That also made me think you said limited lifespan. That rover, I can't remember the name of it because I never can, but that rover that you told me about that sent back the message of like, my battery is low and it's getting dark.
Wasn't that wasn't Curiosity, was it?
No,
Enrique.
That was a Hurricane, Kirk. It was because Curiosity is still going.
Yeah.
It was the one before that.
Yeah, I was trying to look for.
I was gonna say, dang it! Now we're gonna rack our brains on this and try and figure it out. But
Opportunity,
yes. And the funny thing is like, Opportunity. You sent me that, or you told me about that. Those words that it sent back, and it haunts my dreams, man.
It creeped you out. The robot going, my battery is getting low. The time is near. I can feel death upon my shoulder.
Don't give robots
feeling. They don't need emotion. We've had this conversation before. You don't need to give them emotions because then they can get depressed, and then we get depressed and sue.
Well, and it's kind of funny because that's exactly why they did that, because it was kind of around the pinnacle of Twitter and all of that, so they wanted to give it a way to. I'm assuming that's what it was, or
Well, it must. Like if you look on Twitter now, even the Perseverance has its own Twitter page, and it talks in first person just like a person would. And I quit looking at it because it was creeping me out. I'm like, this thing is talking as if it were a person doing science on Mars, and that is not what it is. Stop trying to fake it.
Well, it's for the no one's going to care about a robot on on Mars that's just scuttling around doing its stuff. You give it a kind of that personality, even though it's not real, and it makes it much more interesting. Like I don't know if either of you have heard of this, but I have a vector robot. It's a little desktop robot that
I looked into those.
It is really interesting because it does have that pseudo personality where it.
Though, and just can I interrupt for a second? I think the problem is if the NASA scientists are the ones giving the robots personalities, engineers don't have good personalities. So it still sounds robotic and boring to the average person, while the NASA scientists thinking they're being hilarious, but really it's just they only need to they only know how to speak in ones and zeros. They don't know how to interact with human beings. They're so familiar with robots. And any yays, nays, takers on that theory?
I think under that theory that they should really check out the guy that programmed or that wrote the dark message, because he's hurting.
That guy needs some therapy, is what you're saying? Somebody needs that guy. That guy's obviously depressed. Somebody should talk to that guy because he's getting kind of. He's making this. If you're making robots suicidal, that's a bad sign. That's bad. When robots want to cry, don't do that. Don't make robots cry.
They rust, and then things get weird.
Thank you. Just scientifically, just right there. No roasting robots. John?
I was just going to interject that the reality is, in potentially 10 years' time, that little rover is going to be in a museum.
So nobody will pay attention to him because nobody goes to museums. Is that what you're saying?
No, I just the thought that, if humans start going to Mars within the next 10 years, most of those rovers that have shut down due to low battery, they're all going to get retrieved and put in potentially just museums on Mars.
So if they die, just a giant magnet will kind of suck them back? I mean, something fancier than that, I'm guessing. I'm hoping.
Or they'll upgrade Ingenuity.
Uber will pick them up. Did
we lose Chris?
Yeah, no, he hasn't said anything in a while.
Yeah.
We could
nope,
be.
I'm
okay.
here. I was sorry. I was anyway, I was thinking too when you guys were saying that. I was like, man, they got we haven't talked about the China rover very much since it landed, and turns out that thing's doing the exact same thing as ours do, taking pictures, sending them back. Same thing.
That's about all they can do at this point.
So it's really cool, except then it gets lame after a while.
Can I just say that seems stereotypical that the thing from China is just doing nothing but taking pictures? Can I just I'm offended.
Sure.
From the robot.
Well,
or I could just be fake offended, and I'm not offended at all.
Either or, we'll let you choose. But John, I think this is a good time to jump over to Kirk's Corner and see what he's got going on this week.
Yeah, and unfortunately, nothing was changed for reasons.
It still doesn't matter. I like the intro that you put in. Now, we didn't play it this week, but the new intro you made was still cool. So,
right, the intro was so good. You still have a couple more weeks to coast on. So, no worries about the Kirk's Corner. The intro was still so cool. So,
and the geese haven't figured out how to make it into the house yet. So we're good.
Oh, a couple of little ones have, but yeah, I'm waiting for them to bust through the drywall. If that's going to be the next, that's what I'm hoping for the next one to be.
Oh yeah.
Very cool, Manny. Yes. Why for Kirk Corner? I thought because our last episode was our 21st episode. I'm not sure about you guys, but I actually received several congratulatory letters, actual letters from different people from all, and most of them are nice. I'll be honest with you, but I got 11 of them. So would you guys like to hear sort of the nice, mostly things people said about our 21st episode?
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the first one. First one I got is congratulations. Can we come on your podcast to reach a larger audience? That was from Beyonce and Jay-Z. That was nice. That was very nice of them, I thought. So we could try to get some more people to be aware of them.
All right.
Here is one from it's from the fan club president of Corners, and their letter said, "Kirk's Corner is by far the best corner of 2021." That was not me saying that. That was the fan club of the president of Corners, which is an actual. Moving on. Okay. All right. We came back from the dead to give Fuzed Relativity 2 thumbs down, and that was from Zombie, Siskel, and Ebert. You guys remember them? All right,
those guys are jerks.
Those guys, well, they came back from the dead, though, so they showed a little effort. The next one, thank God this podcast doesn't have smell-o-vision, and that is from the Society of People with Noses. I believe that was more directed at Chris. I believe. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that was from the Society of People with Noses. Not a fan of smell-o-vision. Okay. We have about 5 more. I'm still waiting on that strudel recipe, and that is from a confused listener. They still don't get the 3D printing concept of it, but maybe they'll catch on eventually. All right, here's Chris, Kirk, and John are truly the black holes of entertaining podcasts. That was from Neil deGrasse Tyson. So that was nice that he reached out. Little intelligent space talk there.
Excellent.
Yeah. So you guys you thought I was making this up, but these are legitimate. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson sending a letter, and it was, you know what? It wasn't an email. It was a letter. It was mail that was licked, and that's what I prefer. Okay. Another one. Let's see. What was the next one? Don't call us, we'll call you. That was from the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Don't get your hopes up on that one, I think. Here's another one. I don't know where I'd be without this podcast. I can have a normal life again. That was from the president of Insomniacs. So that was, I don't know how you feel, but that one is sort of I don't think that's nice. I think that was a bad one. We'll put that in the bad column. I think we got 2 more here. Hey, it's not as bad as fracking. That was from the Colorado environmentalists. So that's good. We're not poisoning people, I don't think, with this. I really love all the Fuzed flavors. I hope I sent this to the correct address. And that was from person who did not send it to the correct address. So the Fuzed is close. More of a typo, that one. I shouldn't have read that one. Here's the Fuzed Relativity podcast is our best hope of reuniting America in their hatred of Fuzed Relativity podcast. That was from the Denver Post. And I think I have one more. Oh, here we go. Yes, this is the last one. This is from Albert Einstein. So that was this is big news in the scientific community. My proudest moments are having my theory of relativity always included in this podcast. So somehow we made Albert Einstein a little more famous with this Fuzed Relativity podcast. So,
well, something to hang our hats on, right?
I would say, I think, you know what, John, I mean, I thought that was a nice, you guys didn't get you didn't get the mails, I got the mails, but seriously, that was quite a cast of characters that are fans of our podcast. What do you think? How do you feel?
Impressed.
Yes.
All right. Well, hey, this is number 22, so 22 more to go. We'll get to 50 and stuff. So it's up from here. Chris, did you have any? Yeah, what do you think?
The fact that we had Neil deGrasse Tyson, Beyonce and Jay-Z, and a dead Albert Einstein, that's how do you top that?
Seriously, like if you want to, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but that's an impressive list right there. So tell your friends that this is the place for celebrities, dead celebrities, and scientists to give us our props.
Coming from a bunch of guys who don't know shit. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's Kirk's Corner for the week. Just letting you guys know that we're getting love from letters. So people are listening to us.
Yes, we do. All right. Well, excellent job, Kirk. John, next week, maybe we'll see some, something a little different in Kirk's Corner.
Hopefully.
If not, once again, your intro was awesome. I watched it on YouTube. Everybody can watch it on YouTube if you would like. It is in our highlight videos that we put up every Friday. So if you got 9 to 15 minutes, depending on the episode, check it out every Friday. John throws them up there.
Yeah, just ignore the.
Seen it. If you haven't seen it, look it out. But check it out. It's worth your time. But yeah, go ahead. Preach, John. Preach.
I was gonna say, or watch the full podcast that comes out on Monday.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying for our listeners who don't have an hour and a half, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you got crying kids or whatever. You want to catch the highlights. It's the best of our shows. So
as curated by Kirk.
And yes, Kirk.
You know what? I listen to, if you guys can listen to our podcast, I can re-listen to it and pick out the good parts. That's more than fair.
Yes, and so Fridays that does come up. Mondays, our podcast comes out on Spotify and YouTube. So anywhere you want to catch it, you can kind of pick it up. And I also listen on Mondays. I download on Spotify and re-listen to the podcast just because that's what you should do as a creator of a podcast so that you can figure out where you suck.
That's true. Yeah, if you're not enjoying it, then they're not enjoying it. So that's a good theory. That's a good attitude. Like, might as well be enjoyable. If it's not enjoyable to us, then why do we do this to you guys?
Correct. So I do have an off-topic this week that I want to jump into because this is our off-topic segment. And John, you might find this interesting. I did not send this over to you, so you haven't heard this. Do you know about the ice worms?
Talking about worms they found in ice cores or something else?
So in the Pacific Northwest, they have glaciers that these ice worms live in, and when it warms up a little bit on the glacier, they come out in droves, like thousands and thousands come out of the glacier, and they're like inch-long black worms, and they say that it's, kind of like a apocalyptic thing where you just have all these tiny little black worms coming up out of the ice. And what's interesting about it is they are icebound creatures, so they survive in the ice, which of course is, frozen theoretically 32 degrees Fahrenheit. But they cannot live in anything less than that. It's really fascinating. So their bodies have acclimated to freezing temperatures of being frozen, but not like if you put them in minus 20, they would die. It's really
wait,
weird.
I just dropped off a bunch of ice worms at the sauna, so you're saying I shouldn't have done that?
Well, in
Probably
theory,
not.
in theory, they could potentially survive higher temperatures. It's just they've adapted to surviving in lower temperatures so that they adapted to surviving at freezing at 32.
Yes.
Which makes sense because once you get into the ice far enough, just like with when you dig into the ground and you get towards kind of like bedrock, the temperature really doesn't fluctuate. It gets to where it is and then it just kind of stops.
Right.
It doesn't change.
So the whole point of the story that I came across was that they are using these worms to try and figure out life on other planets as far as how an organism could adapt to a different environment, such as living underground on Mars.
See, and I'm starting to remember some of this. I think it has something. I want to say this sounds familiar, but it sounds. Remember,
the worms have like the reason they come up to the surface is to get solar, like they need sunshine. So every so often when the temperatures are right, they come out and they sunbathe essentially, and they have enough pigment to soak in all that sun, and then they go back into the ice and they freeze and eat like bacteria and algae in the ice until it's time to come back up. I mean, it's a pretty boring lifestyle, but
the story
it's better than getting used by ice fishermen to fish. You figure ice fishermen, ice worms, right?
Yeah, I'm remembering more. The story I was reading was more about fish. Now they have kind of a more, it's not alcohol, but they have kind of almost an antifreeze in their blood, which helps them survive under the ice caps and all that stuff. That's what I was thinking of.
Well, I heard they wore hypercolor shirts so you could tell when they got too cold. It would turn blue and they'd know it. They'd have to go warm up.
And fish, technically, like most cold-blooded animals, they can slow their metabolisms down so far that they don't have to eat for long stretches at a time, and they can survive. Like, okay, since we're off topic, when I was in high school, I had a turtle. And John, you may remember that turtle.
Oh yeah.
What was the turtle's name?
Rico.
Rico Suave?
He was Rico Suave. Turtles are terrible pets, but I digress. They stink, right? So every now and then you have to take out, because he was a water turtle, so you basically have to take out their tank and clean it. Well, I remember one time I took the tank out to clean it and then forgot about the tank and left the tank sitting outside overnight, and guess what? The water froze. And I felt really bad because I'm looking at this going, that's a terrible way for a turtle to go. And in the warm sunlight, the tank melted and the turtle sprang back to life like nothing had happened. It was kind of crazy.
Oh,
story, because I thought the turtle was going to run away to get away from your stink. That's what I thought that was where it was going. But that's a much better ending.
Well, I mean, most reptiles hibernate in extreme cold.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that this turtle was completely frozen in ice, and then, I mean, granted, it wasn't like block solid ice, of course, because that would have been a different story, but still, the fact that they can shut down their body systems enough to be able to handle that kind of temperature swing and then rebound from it's impressive. And they think that that's something to look into as far as, living on other planets, or at least having life on other planets.
Yeah.
So that was my off-topic story. Do you guys got anything else?
Just that Never Gonna Give You Up hit a Never Gonna Give You Up hit 1 billion plays on YouTube.
Really? Huh.
Never Gonna Give You Up, that Rick Astley song?
Yep.
Wow.
Only because it was used as almost as a troll for a long time.
I have a funny memory. I remember in grade school for the talent show, somebody they lip synced that song, and the second time he did it, he got flustered and he lost his place, and he stopped lip singing and he left the stage crying because So I watched someone break down crying because he screwed up lip singing to Rick Astley, that song. So I have a very specific memory with that song.
Yeah, and I mean, come on, the song's "I'm Never Gonna Give Up." Yeah,
Never Gonna give you up.
He totally gave up. He pulled the ripcord and he had it. I heard the first one went better, but the second song, anytime talent show ends in tears, it's not good.
Yeah, it reminds me, John, of this because that's 1 billion views though. That's crazy. Like, the people who Pink Fong who made Baby Shark, they have like 80 million or 80 billion views or something stupid, and that seems astronomical. But to get 80, 1 billion views that's huge. And it reminded me of a news story that we saw not too long ago where these engineers years ago made a hotline that you could call to hear Hall & Oates. So like you just call the hotline and it's all you do is pick a Hall & Oates song that you want to hear. And the name of it was Hall & Oates. So anybody that wants to look that up, it's still active. It's a thing.
No one wants to look that up. Okay, well, we'll leave on I have a quick one. I have a quick off topic. Mine is I read a story about a man from Idaho. He balanced a chair on his chin for 1 hour and 8 minutes and 39 seconds, setting a world record. A couple things. This man has over 200 world records, so he's kind of addicted to world record. Another thing, this just proves that potatoes are still the most interesting thing about Idaho. A couple other things. And the man, you know what the man's new nickname is? Do you guys want to guess what the new man's nickname is?
Go for it. What is it?
He's the chairman of the boring. Is the one. All right. And then one more thing. The worst part was there was actually an 83-year-old woman who really wanted to sit down. And this jerk was using the only chair. So that's slightly off topic. But seriously, if you're going to break a world record and you see an old lady, give her the chair instead. Don't be a dick.
There was a story that I came across just before our show that's there was a 100-year-old woman in, I think, St. Louis or somewhere in the Midwest. She turned 100 and she celebrated her 100th birthday with 100 White Castle sliders.
Oh, wow.
And I said, you know what? Good for her. Way to be.
I hope she had help. I can't imagine. That's impressive. She would have to be really drunk or high or something.
I'm not saying she ate them all, but if I turn 100, I'm buying 100 of something. I mean, White Castle sliders, they're good enough. Take down as many as you can, and then just, you got meals for like, 2 weeks.
I heard she wrapped them in Kleenex, and for the next 2 months, that's what she would offer kids from her purse instead of like, Werther's caramel. You guys want a white slider wrapped in? Ugh, the thing's 3 weeks old. It's still good.
Shelf stable.
There's preservatives in there. It's fast food. It never goes bad. It was never good to begin with.
So, just saying, 100 years old, do what you're going to do, but kudos to I'm a hamburger, whore, essentially. So, kudos to the lady who ordered 100 White Castle sliders.
That's your soulmate.
That's no, my wife's my soulmate, and that lady's just, I respect her. That's all.
Okay, you respect the old lady for, after she ate him, she quickly died of a heart attack. So the story ended not so good.
Hopefully not.
Why you gotta take it dark, Kirk?
All right, you're true. God forbid I speak of an old lady, 100-year-old lady dying. That's completely off topic. But boom, come on, brought it all back full circle. Anyway.
Full circle. Well, hey, I think we did it. I think that's episode 22. And guys, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show, and I'm super bummed. This is the last episode before I go back to work after my nice long vacation with the newborn baby. And so, such is life. I got to get back to the grind. But that was just me complaining about having to go back to work. And yeah, nothing. That's it.
No.
It's just me complaining.
No, work sucks. I've tried 30 of them, and you know what? I don't think it's me anymore. I think it's jobs.
Yeah.
You are correct, John. I know you second that.
Yep.
So for me, Skulls and Arms, Chris, John, and Butthead Kirk up there, aka douchebag. Thanks for joining us this evening, and we'll see you next week.